Do you deserve gentleness?
Yes, I do.
Do you trust it?
Not when it comes from people.
Hello, and welcome to the Fuck Suffering podcast. I am your hostess, Ray Hance, and today we have a very intimate, very tender episode. Trigger warning, we will talk about rape today. We'll also talk about trusting gentleness, boundaries, trust after sexual trauma, regaining a sense of the erotic in your body after sexual trauma, the perils of external validation, feeling cozy and held, how much of comfort is contingent on control, and rooms that hug. What is our guest question for the I Ching this week? What is my correct path for the new year? Tell me more about the boundaries piece with this person who you let back into your life and then didn't respect the boundaries that you were holding. Is that pretty recent too?
Yeah. I actually unfriended him in August. This is somebody I'd known since I was like 5 years old. And I had had enough. I just wanted to cut the energy. I didn't want to be rude about it. I didn't want to be an asshole about it. I just wanted to be respectful of my energy and my boundaries. So I unfriended him on Facebook, and I hardly see him around town anyway. So it wasn't like a big thing. It just seemed like a natural progression of things. And then I went for like 3 months not running into him downtown. And Ojai is a fairly small town. So I don't know if you're familiar with Ojai.
I am. I love Ojai.
Oh my God. Have you been to Bart's Books yet?
No.
Oh my God. Next time you come to Ojai, let me know and I will take you to Bart's Books. You'll never want to leave. So, I mean, Ojai is a small town, so you run into people, but it's also kind of easy to not run into people too, weirdly. And so for like 3 months, I didn't run into him. I was totally okay. I would see him driving by, but it was, again, small town, so it wasn't a big deal. And then he just inserted himself back into my life. And I thought, oh, cool. And it was very friendly, very positive. And I thought, oh, okay, so we can be grown-ups about this. That's great. I like that we can be friendly, and it's just fine. And then it turned out that he lost his job at the athletic club and is now working at the gym across from the warehouse I work in. And I thought, oh, cool, work neighbor. And so I saw him walking out and I popped my head out to say hi, and he just ignored me, but his client heard him, and I must have said something because he said, and I don't think he intended me to hear this. But he said to his client, ignore her, she's no one. And I thought, wow, okay. Don't act like... It was just very shocking and hurtful, and I don't think he intended me to hear that. But 2 days ago, I had to take tea from my warehouse to the shipping and receiving warehouse, and he was outside, and I loitering in front of the gym entrance, and I'm pretty sure, I know he saw me because it's kind of hard not to, and I saw him, but I just chose not to acknowledge him and walked right on by him. And he was fiddling with his phone, as people do, like trying to pretend you're not paying attention. You know, that fidgeting with the phone. And I think he stayed outside the front of the gym for like maybe 5 minutes before he went back inside. And I kind of got the feeling that he wanted me to acknowledge him, but I just didn't want to. So I didn't.
So when you said you'd had enough of what?
I'd had enough of his energy, of his I don't know. I don't even remember saying, but I know I had enough. I'd had enough of trying to be a friend to somebody who couldn't even be a friend to himself. I guess I'm tired. I got tired of feeling anxiety around somebody who I generally had a positive relationship with, because there was no reason for me to have anxiety. I'd had enough of just dealing with him.
Was he a lover?
No.
Did you want him to be?
For a time, yeah. And then I just kind of got over it. And because again, living in Ojai, you kind of know who's been with who. So I've had the opportunity to observe him with two very different women. And I liked him better with his ex because he was actually somebody I could admire. And with his current girlfriend, he's somebody I want to stay far away from. It's the kind of relationship that I had walked away from.
With other people?
Yeah, with a different person.
What kind of relationship is that?
It was a romantic relationship, and I witnessed a lot of behavior between this guy and his current girlfriend that I'd experienced with my last boyfriend. And I thought that's not something I would ever want back in my life again. So I had basically been putting him on the friend shelf and just, or even just a friendly acquaintance kind of thing. So.
Can you say a little more about that relationship?
Which one?
The one where you're observing similar behavior?
With my last boyfriend? Mm-hmm. Very dismissive.
Dismissive? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like controlling. My ex actually told me I would be perfect and if I was more conservative. And I'm like, why would you want to remake me into something I'm not? Because that would kill the very thing that drew you to me.
Yeah, exactly.
And so here's your answer to that is that I am a conservative liberal or a liberal conservative. Which one makes you feel better?
How much did you bend in that relationship?
Well, that relationship was interesting because it was a rebound. I stumbled into that one because right after a sexual assault. And I think a part of me was determined to reclaim what my rapist tried to take from me, which is my sexual side and my enjoyment of sex and my sexuality. So I think there was that instinct in me to reclaim that. And this person was in a lot of ways very safe. He wasn't didn't have a very sharp energy. He had a soft energy. Mm-hmm. But because I was still traumatized, I let a lot of things slide for about a year because I didn't want to rock the boat. And I didn't want to rock the boat. I didn't want to say anything.
Well, if you felt safe after assault, there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah. And
How did you hold a container where you could reclaim your body?
yeah.
There's a lot to be said for that. I'm sorry you went through that experience.
Yeah, it was bad. And
It's really hard.
thank you. And then about almost a little over a year after we got together, I started to say, no, this doesn't work for me. And so I would try and communicate this with him. And because he'd gotten away with so much for a year already, he didn't like a lot of that. And he would he would say, okay, I'll consider this, but not actually do the work. And then on December 9th, this is like red letter date in my head, December 19th, 2011, we were making out, and I was dressed all sexy, and I wanted to make love with him. And he ultimately put me in a position where I had to beg for it. Mm-hmm. And it made me feel cheap and used. And I thought, never fucking again. If he wants it, he can come and get it. And that was the last time I had sex. And I broke up with anybody, really. That was the last time I had sex, period. And I broke up with him 4 months later.
So 10 years ago.
Yeah. And then I thought, and then I've been looking at it like I chose to be single because I wanted to settle all that energy and clear out all that energy from my body so that when I do meet somebody, that all of that energy is not stuck and junked up inside of me. And I think the yoga's helped a lot with that. And so, yeah.
There's only so much of that work we can do alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it's only by choosing well, a tender witness, can we move the deepest, darkest parts of that.
Yeah. And the thing about this guy was that he remembered me when I didn't remember myself. He remembered me from a time before, we graduated from high school, and he didn't see all the mess. So in a way, I felt like I was able to see myself through his eyes a little bit and start coming back to myself. And now I feel like I have, but mostly because I did all the work. So it's a little...
Which guy was this?
The one who said I was no one. He and I have known each other since we were like 5.
So this was somebody that you thought really saw you.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'd had a friendship. We reconnected in 2012, and he was the one that indicated that he was the one making all the connections and of how we knew each other and all of that.
So where was that in your body when he said that you were no one?
Where was that in my body? Mm-hmm.
How did that feel in your body?
I'm trying to remember. Well, it was surprise. I I remember thinking, did I just go back in time to high school? Because it kind of felt surreal. I think in my head, I think that's where it was, because it didn't feel, I mean, it was hurtful, but I think my reaction was mostly in my head. And no, that's not right.
If you drop it into your body now, how does it feel?
It feels like in my chest.
Mm-hmm. What's the texture of it?
It was sharp. Yeah, it was sharp. It was not pleasant, and it was confusing.
How did you go about setting the boundaries with him after that?
Well, fortunately, I hardly see him, so I never reached out to him. I didn't reach out. I didn't communicate with him. I just thought, if that's how you feel about it, I'm well rid of you. It hurts. And I started reassessing everything that I'd experienced with him and questioning, which was a really painful thing to do.
More about that.
What, the reassessing?
Yeah, like how did you manage? How did you open to that pain?
Well, I had to relook at. I mean, okay, well, part of me wanted to wreak vengeance on him like an avenging angel, but because it's just it's like, why are we still in high school? Why did he have to be rude?
Yeah.
And then but at the same time, I chose to look at it that really, because my parents studied Jung, so I grew up with a lot of Jung theory in the house. And what we see in other people tend to be reflections of ourselves in that moment, or in general. And I thought, really, what he was doing was speaking about himself in that moment. Mm-hmm. Instead, he was projecting onto me what he was feeling about himself, mm-hmm. which took the sting out of it. And that helped me release it, I guess.
How did it feel to release it? Like, what was that process like?
It felt good.
Did you release it from your mind, or were you able to release it from your body?
I was able to release it from my body. I'm the kind of person that analyzes things to the point of exhaustion, because it's just a lot of it just doesn't make sense to me. So I wonder and I think about it, and I don't try to make it focused on that one person who did that. I try to make it a more generalized thing, so that I'm not focusing on that one person. So I just try to make it more. I try to philosophize or to understand where that's coming from. And I know that sometimes understanding isn't always possible.
What happens if you shift that processing to your body? Instead of just a mental activity, like of sorting notions, mm-hmm. actually metabolizing that process with your body.
It probably causes stress.
What kind?
The kind that gives me really bad stomach aches.
So you would move that process back up to your head where it's safe.
Yeah.
Is your head really able to do that job? Alone?
I think so. I mean, I talk about it to my best friend occasionally, or I journal it.
How do you feel about the purging that you were doing?
Really good.
That's interesting. But you still felt like it was something to see a doc to be treated.
Oh, you mean the vomiting?
Yeah.
No, I hate the vomiting. I don't like it. It's been going on for a year and a half, and sometimes I go for a week feeling really crappy afterwards. Like I can't feel physically good. I'm in good physical condition. A lot of other things about my life are really, really good, but it's this gastronomical issue with the vomiting that is really bothersome to me, and I don't like it. So I want to not feel that way.
Have you ever tried letting yourself continue to feel that way, even though you don't like it? What happens if you stay in that past your comfort level?
I know that I'm not sure if I'm going to answer the question accurately or whatever, but I know that
They're so accurate. It's just whatever works for you.
I know that when I can feel it, my body going in that direction, I just go sit in the bathroom over a wastebasket, and I have to actually encourage my body. Okay, this is what you need to do. So let's do it. It's okay. We both hate this, but if this is what you need to do, you need to do it. So let's do it. And then sometimes I'm able to purge.
What happens with the thoughts after that and the internalized stress? Is there like a release of that in there?
Yeah. Once, I know in early November, I was very stressed out trying to make a doctor's appointment that didn't interfere with my work schedule. And it just really stressed me out to the point where I shouldn't have eaten dinner, because within an hour after eating dinner and getting home, it came back up. And I felt better, but yeah.
What kind of doctor's appointment was it?
It was just, I think it was about, it was about, because I'm going to Africa in June.
Oh, how lovely.
I know. It's very exciting.
Where?
Kenya. Going on a photo safari kind of thing with art for elephants. And we're going to Amboseli Park for like 8 days. And I'm just very excited.
So your doctor's appointment was about that?
Yeah, it was about like, what do I need to prepare for? Do I need any like yellow fever shots or malaria? I definitely need stuff for malaria. So, yeah. So that was what the doctor's appointment was about. And I was frustrated because I got there, my appointment was at 4 the day before. And I got there 15 minutes early. And then I was kept waiting till about 5. And then I just left without seeing my doctor.
Did you talk to anyone in the office?
They told me that sometimes when a patient they can't always tell how sick the patient is, and I'm just like, it's a bone of contention with that office that their hours are basically in the middle of my work day, and I can't always be taking time off from work to going to doctor's appointments, and it was very frustrating.
Could you find a doctor with different hours?
I honestly really like this doctor. I've only had 2 other doctors in my life, and they have both since died.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not comfortable trying to establish a new relationship with a new doctor unless I really have to. Like if I move to another city or something like that.
So is there some connection in the internalized stress of the doctor's office, like being ignored and sort of your time devalued at the doctor's office, and the relationship with this man who said, "You're no one"?
I don't know. I wouldn't have connected the two. I honestly wouldn't have connected the two.
What are the questions you came in with today?
I really liked all the questions you shared as suggestions, but the 2 that popped out the most were what needs to shift for me to have a more beneficial livelihood, and what is my correct path for the new year?
Which one's more alive for you right now?
What is my correct path for the new year?
Okay. So you've cast hexagram 29, shape-shifting, into 20, listen like a whale. So 29, shape-shifting is water over water.
Mm-hmm.
And as you might guess, it's about fluidity in all circumstances and being able to let go of structure in such a way that you can move with what's actually happening, no matter how treacherous.
Right.
And what's surrounding that is listen like a whale, like opening your skin, decentering yourself, and being so embodied and so permeable, so willing to be permeable, so surrendered to permeability, that you can register every nuance of the ecosystem that's enveloping you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does actually.
Yeah. So how does that land for you?
I like that.
Let's read a little from shape-shifting. You've fallen into a chasm between your life force and your life. Why are they so far apart? Flow over cliffs and out of eddies by shape-shifting like water. If you clench, you're going to have a problem. If you soften, peril becomes adventure. Let go of form. Solidity will only bring collisions now. Hold identity like water. Move with changing conditions. Flow over cliffs and out of eddies by remaining soft. Nothing is solid. Don't pretend it is. No faking it till you make it now. There is no ground under your feet. Dive deeper. There's freedom here if you don't resist. You will learn what you are capable of and how a worst-case scenario can be a gift. Daring is just another way of saying energetic surrender, surrendering form. Moment to moment, you respond and are transformed, moving through the rapids of causes and conditions with increasing ease. Responsive navigation through perilous terrain is yours now if you remain fluid. Through shape-shifting, your essence becomes clear. Repetition of danger turns peril to adventure. Which abyss do you keep diving into without becoming fluid? What's the one rock you keep dashing your skull on? I want you to really sit with that question. What's the one rock you keep dashing your skull on? What's the pattern? Can you love this repetition? Can you love that rock? Can you notice what keeps bringing them together? Do you love your life so much that repeating any one day over and over again would be a joy? If not, why not? What part of yesterday would you hate to do again? Do it again and again until you love it so much that it's no longer a burden, until you are honed by it, like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. Find the patience of water. Water transforms again and again, now an icicle, now steam. All water on earth has always been here, changing states again and again. It carries the memory of causes and conditions. We are like this body, that body. We are more than 70% water after all. Water in a lake rises in condensation to make clouds. When the rain falls, water returns to the lake. Maybe different water, maybe it's been here before, who knows? Water changes states, shepherded by bigger unseen forces. Water is the lineage of life itself. Water belongs to water. It meets itself again and again. It moves through us and around us all the time, altering and enabling life. Water lends us its capacity for rapid state change, comforting or drowning us. There is stability in moving with flux. What is unbearable? I want you to sit with that question too. What is unbearable? Is it still unbearable when your feet touch the bottom of it? Go all the way down and find out how buoyant you are. Now you have two transforming lines here bringing you into hexagram 20, listen like a whale. So these transforming lines are the bridges between these two hexagrams. Line 2 is danger is all around you. Baby steps, crawl, then walk, then run. A little skulking would probably also be good. Exercise extreme caution. Listen closely to the lay of the land. And line 6 at the top. You're not drowning anymore, but bound on land. What you couldn't let go of now restricts you. The rope you tried to pull yourself out of the chasm with now entangles you. You just had to keep pushing when you were called to surrender, and now you are hopelessly caught in your own twisted causes and conditions. Bear witness to the disorder you've created. At least you can breathe. Watch your breath. You're going to be here a while. And that actually segues really beautifully into Listen Like a Whale, because it's about really being still and noticing your breath and noticing your skin breathing. Listen like a whale is a whale surfaces from source and dives again, listening with her whole body. Water carries sound for miles. A whale is engulfed by sound, the songs of her kin on her skin. Listen like that. Guan, the original name of this hexagram, is the same as the first name of Guan Yin, the Bodhisattva. Guan is her perception of the cries of the world. It's not all she perceives, but it's what requires her compassionate action. Her actions are how her perception is made visible, like wind on water. This perception is the start of a fruitful spiritual journey. The next right step emerges like the tides. Don't pretend to have a 5-year plan. Feel the current. Follow its direction. There is a sense of scope and scale, but details remain absent. Slow. What are you devoted to? There's a little more to it, but I want to stop there and see how that lands for you. And come back to that question in hexagram 29, shapeshifting, about what's the one rock you keep dashing your skull on, especially in the context of thinking about this doctor's office and this guy and his comment.
Well, I was thinking about the doctor's office, and the reason why I keep going back to this doctor is because I'm very comfortable with her. And I've seen a couple of the other doctors in the office, and it's not that they're not good doctors. I don't feel comfortable being their patient. I don't feel like they listen as well. And one of them is a male doctor, and talking to a male doctor about what happened was not a very comfortable situation. Okay. So
there's also some familiarity and comfort with this guy too, right? Like that you're saying you've known each other for a really long time. And
yeah.
So then what's the good thing that is what do you like about being no one? Where's the freedom in it?
I can be anything I want.
Okay.
And
so is there something really free around putting yourself into situations that reiterate that idea?
No, I don't believe I'm no one. But to him, I might be no one because I don't fit what he values. And that's really nothing to do with me.
So then what is the rock you keep dashing your skull on? What's the one rock? What's that main way that you get in your own way? What's your most reliable source of suffering?
Stubborn. I get stubborn.
About what?
Well, what don't I get stubborn about? I get when I don't feel like I'm being heard, or when I feel like I don't really want to go on that path or do what I'm supposed to do, I get stubborn, which I think everybody does.
Wait, when you don't do what you're supposed to do, you get stubborn?
Sorry, I'm talking around myself. I get in my own way by being stubborn because I don't want to do the dotted line that somebody else put out in front of me. I want to get to the destination in my own way. I guess, or I overthink things, like trying to figure out why this person who I had been on good terms with only 4 days earlier would turn around and tell a complete stranger that I was no one. I would overthink things like that. Not doing it as much, but I still do it.
The mind is a safer place than the body. Is that it?
Most of the time. But I know that he would turn on the charm, and I like that, but it's also very confusing. And I never really have an opportunity to ask him why he does that, because he's never alone for me to ask that, because he knows I mean, he was my go-to person for guy questions because I never understood why would a guy do this if he's not planning on asking me out. Well, because he likes you, but you're not his type or whatever. And I'm like, well, then he shouldn't be doing that. It's confusing. Not all women find that flattering. It's just flat out confusing. I mean, especially being on the autism spectrum, it's just, there's a lot of undercurrents that I don't always understand. I can feel them. I can almost see them. So it's confusing.
How do you feel them?
It's like being spun. It's like being in one of those teacup rides at Disneyland where it spins really fast and you get disoriented. That's how it feels, except you're not moving, but you can feel that energy of being disoriented because there's something else going on underneath the social politeness.
And that can be pretty exciting.
Well, yeah, except that it doesn't feel exciting. It feels disorienting. Like I can't figure out where they're coming from. And with this guy, it's always been very, for a while, it was kind of exciting because it felt like it felt really good. It was new. I liked him in that way at that point. But it never progressed. And I think that's where I would like look at it and like, okay, if this were any other guy, I feel like we would be dating right now, but we're not. So I don't understand why he keeps doing this.
Do you understand why you kept going back?
Well, I liked the feeling and I thought maybe it was mutual.
But did you like the feeling, like the teacup ride feeling?
A little bit in the beginning.
Were you open for that feeling to deepen, or was experiencing the teacup feeling just enough?
I was open for it to deepen, to see where it would go, but he was never making that move. And
so then do you think you were really open for it to, were you really ready to be fully emotionally available, or was it easier because you saw that wasn't going to come from him?
I don't know. There were a couple of times where I felt like he would have made a move in my direction, but he ultimately chose not to.
How long did this go on?
A couple of years. And he did give me the look about a month or so ago. And then that caused me
What look?
Well, the look where you have that eye contact and it just like there's like a nice little synergy going and you don't really feel like you need to say anything to really enjoy each other's company or presence, that kind of thing. And then, of course, where is that in relation to him saying that you were no one? That was like after Thanksgiving. And then he said I was no one 3 days before Christmas. And 4 days before that, we had run into each other a couple of times, and it was really good. We were friends.
So I want to come back to this question in hexagram 29.
But
what's the one rock you keep dashing your skull on? What's the pattern? Can you love this repetition? I would add the question, do you already on some level love this repetition? Can you love that rock? Can you notice what keeps bringing them together?
I had been progressively letting go of him for like a year and a half and moving in the direction of, and I was trying to do it in a way that I don't believe in doing things cold turkey. I was doing it.
Why not?
Because I think I've tried doing cold turkey a couple of times and it never really worked for me.
How come?
Because again, small town, you tend to run into that thing cold turkey, to that one thing constantly. So I felt like letting go by not communicating with him, not commenting on his posts as much or at all. And just, not running into them. And I don't try to avoid him at all, but I don't seek him out either. And so I just go about and live my life and I don't see them. And
how much?
And I was quite.
So if you're let's think about hexagram 20 of listening like a whale.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of song does this relationship sing?
A dirge.
Okay. Okay. A dirge, like a funeral dirge? A dirge is usually pretty funereal.
Yeah. Well,
what dead part of you does it sing to?
The part of me probably that used to be okay with having a lot of drama because that was supposed to be normal. But
what does it get you? What is that?
Oh God, headaches and stress.
What else?
And throwing up.
What else?
Stomach aches.
What else?
Anxiety.
What else?
All kinds of things. I don't like it.
Like you don't like it?
No.
And
I know. Here's the
part of you does. What part of you does?
the one that only half believes the media representation of what love is. This is a funny thing. Let me tell you something my ex-boyfriend said to me. He said to me that he didn't love me because there was no passion. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I thought we were doing pretty good in that department. And because I'd heard that.
Was that sex or passion? Sex or passion?
Well, we had pretty good sex and I thought we were pretty good outside the bedroom. Mm-hmm. But I'd heard that comment before from other guys. And so I thought, I want to understand what this is exactly. So I made him explain to me what he meant by no passion. And I pinned him down and he did not like it at all. And ultimately, what he described to me was absolute fantasy. I said, you're describing a porn film wrapped in a romantic comedy. That isn't real. If you wanted to take that as an accurate representation of a relationship, understand that would be the highlights reel of a 50-year relationship, because no one can sustain that kind of energy for 6 months, let alone 60 years constantly. What he wanted was the high. He wanted the constant high. He didn't understand that sometimes love is very mundane and very quiet and that passion and all that kind of passion can come from that, but he could not accept that what we had, and I admit it wasn't looking back on it, it was healthy for me because I had never had somebody not be an asshole, even though it's hard to explain. There's a lot of things about it that for me was healthy. And I think what was healthy about it was me recognizing what was positive about it and wanting more of that.
What was that?
The quietness. There was a lot of companion. That was companionable. We got along. When he could be really cute.
What's intimacy?
Being able to just be without any expectation, without any constant demands, and being able to be soft, you know, and I could be soft with him, but I also sometimes felt very guarded because I never knew when he was going to run. And I was terrified at that point. And I know that because I felt safer having him around, even though there was a lot of flaws within the relationship and a lot of flaws in a lot of things that he did not bring to the table that I needed. There was a safety there, and I recognized that, and I chose that because at that time I needed it, and it was, as I said earlier, a way for me to reclaim a part of myself that somebody else tried to break or take away from me.
Why did you choose him?
Well, because he was safe.
Does that feel fair? Does that feel love? Does that feel generous?
No.
Does that feel intimate?
No, but he was safe. And at that time, that was enough.
For you?
Yeah. It was a start.
For you?
And he still hung up on me. He called me over the summer and wanted to get back together. And I said, absolutely not.
Why not?
Because after I broke up with him, he wanted to be friends. Well, first, 6 or 7 months later, he talked about he wanted to get back together. And I let him talk me into it because, one, I wasn't seeing anybody. And two, I genuinely did like his company. And I thought, well, why not? But mostly I wanted to see how long it would take him to go back to form. And it took him 2.5 weeks.
Wait, hang on. So you were setting him up to fail?
Well, no, I don't think so. I don't believe I was. I wanted to see, I wanted to believe that he had changed. I wasn't entirely sure I was ready to be convinced.
Had you changed?
Yeah, because 2.5 weeks later, I asked him if he was absolutely serious about me moving in with him, and he started making it sound like I was the one that wanted to get back together with him. And I called him out on it. I said, absolutely not. That's not what happened here. You were the one that came to me. You were the one that wanted to get back together with me. You were the one talking.
Does it matter? What? And if so, why? Why does it matter if you are together?
Yeah. And it's just, he argued, he didn't want to hear it. He just wasn't.
Because why does it matter?
So in the end, I ended it with him again.
Well, why does it matter who wanted to get back together if you want to be together?
That's a good question.
Why did you need to be right there? What was that about?
Because I didn't like him putting it on me when I wasn't the one that asked to get back together.
Because what would have been so bad about, obviously you did want to get back together since you did get back together. So what's that victory for? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Because to me, it wasn't that I wanted to be right. It was that I did not want to be gaslighted. I did not want him to gaslight me. I did not want him to shirk his behavior. I did not want to be responsible for what he was doing, what he was saying, when he was the one that put it to me.
You didn't want to be responsible for wanting the vulnerability of asking to get back together.
I did not want to be responsible for him, really. I asked, he was the one that came back to me that wanted to get back together. And then I asked a couple of weeks later about the seriousness of this. Was he serious? Because I was trying to be open to that. And then he said, what are you talking about? I never said that. I never did this. This isn't going to happen. You need to stop pushing. You need to stop doing this. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. You're the one that broached the subject. I'm the one asking what are the steps that need to be taken to make that happen. And if it's a serious thing to consider. And he kept trying to make me the one responsible for us getting back together rather than acknowledging he was the one that wanted it to get back together. And so I left. I can't deal with that kind of behavior.
It's what?
And then he couldn't even be my friend. He wanted to be friends because by that time I really was done with him. I really was done with him in the romance department. And he wanted to be friends. And against my better judgment, I said, okay, because we did theater together and we would run into each other. And I thought, well, let's be grown-ups about this. And he spent the next 3 years trying to convince me that he wanted me back in his life, but we're just friends. And it got really stressful. So he couldn't accept that I did not want to be anything to him other than a friend. And I ultimately ended the friendship. And I did not speak to him for 6 years until he called over the summer. And he wanted to get back together. I'm like, why?
Maybe because he missed you?
I don't miss him.
Okay, fair enough.
And because he doesn't, I don't think he misses me at all. He misses the idea of me.
How do you know?
I think because he doesn't see me. He didn't respect anything I had to say to him. He didn't respect who I was. He wanted to change me to be more palatable to himself and to his friends. He didn't want me. And I told him that.
How much of yourself did you allow to be seen?
I had to hide a whole lot from him.
You had to?
I had to because I couldn't tell him I had been raped.
Why not?
Because he was talking the first week we were together dating. He was talking about how he was afraid it was going to end. I could not tell him anything because he was so far ahead in the future that he couldn't allow himself to be in the present. And I could not tell him anything. And I did try a couple of times, probably a year in. I did try to tell him that there was some really shitty people trying to get to me because of something of what happened. But he just he didn't want to hear it. He didn't listen. And I was having a hard time communicating that.
Tell me about your struggle to communicate it. How did it come out?
I still don't think he knows. I still don't think he knows. At the time, I had severed a connection with somebody who was closely related to the person who assaulted me. And they had decided that the story was that I went after this guy, and I was calling it rape because it was bad sex, when actually no, it wasn't sex. There was no sex involved. It was an assault. And they were coming, there was a lot of cruel messages being sent to me, and he just told me to ignore them. And I'm like, I'm trying to tell you something that happened to me. And he just wasn't listening. He didn't want to listen to a lot of what I had to say, because again, at the time we started dating, I was in a complete state of shock and trauma, and I was not in my mind.
And not in your body.
No. And I think I was at that point just running on instinct. And I knew that if I didn't reclaim that part of myself immediately.
Honey, that can't be forced.
I know. Well, I know. We didn't actually become sexually active with each other until like 3 or 4 months down the line. But I knew that if I didn't make any kind of effort to reclaim that part of myself right away, it would take longer. And my sole thought in my head at that point was, I was not going to let the son of a bitch hurt me win. That was my big thought in my mind.
But that hurt happened, and that hurt is real, and that hurt also needs to be gently grieved.
Yeah.
Honestly grieved. It can't be pushed. Rape is not the kind of thing where you can get over it by getting under another.
No, I know. And the thing of it was, it took me 3 years to figure out that what had happened was rape. Because at that time, I really didn't know what had happened. I knew something bad happened because it was huge and I couldn't articulate it. And everybody was telling me, well, there are 2 people there. It takes 2 people to tango. And I'm like, but it takes 2 people for a rape to happen. And so I was not getting a lot of support, and because I couldn't articulate what was going on. And I was seeing 2 therapists at the same time and doing a lot of reading. And it was an old friend. And I told her what happened, and she said, yeah, you were raped. And that was when I finally allowed myself to really look at what had happened. So there was a lot going on where I couldn't articulate what had happened to me because I couldn't figure out what had happened to me. And so, yeah.
Do you deserve gentleness?
Yes, I do.
Do you trust it?
Not when it comes from people. Not always.
What source of gentleness do you trust?
My horse.
Okay.
And my cats.
Okay.
And the dogs that I run into in the street that remember me when I worked at the hardware store because of the cookies.
That's some good gentleness right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's generous. Do you trust gentleness when it comes from yourself? Do you provide that for yourself?
Yeah. And I like to do nice things for myself. Cozy things that make me feel warm and fuzzy and
held.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I've got some really nice flannel jammies and I've got some really cozy slippers.
Good.
I've made my room like a little sanctuary. Like it's when I'm at work, that's really where I want to be. Because I've got this really awesome wingback chair and it's a turquoise teal color and matching ottoman and my great grandma's vanity desk that I use. So I've got my room isn't just a repository of stuff, which it was for a while. It's actually really quite organized and very cozy. And that's kind of how I want my whole house to be when I get one. Cozy. Enveloping in warmth and books. Because I have a lot of books.
Mm-hmm. A good cocoon.
Yeah. The kind of home that when you walk through the door, you feel like you walked into a hug.
Yeah. Do you think you'll let anybody else in there?
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
I think so.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Fuck Suffering podcast with me, your hostess, Ray Hance. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, come to rayhance.com, REIHANCE, and send us a message. If you're interested in the book that I use to do readings on this podcast, it's called Oracle of Emergence, an Evolutionary I Ching. That's my book, and it's available on Amazon. If you would love to help us grow our audience, because you enjoyed the podcast so much, rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. And in the meantime, God, we really can't fuck suffering until we trust suffering. And in a wild existential kink, we are all in that together. Till next time.